Okay, welcome back. Hi everyone, this is your boy, Dianu Nakarusu Ortiz, aka the Omega Jack, with another retrograde where retro thoughts? Let's see if that name sticks. As the title implies, we're talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus and the Gen 4 remakes. What do they mean for Pokemon, and what does everything that's going on with the latest information drop in August mean for the series going forward? So I have two other videos that I'll link in the description below so that you can go and watch them if you want to watch those first before you watch this video, because I'm actually doing them all at the same time. I did the first one yesterday, and today I'm doing the second episode and doing this third take here, and I just feel really inspired because this summer has been incredible in terms of pocket monster content, and this year in general, like despite like the obvious ongoing situation with everything in the world, we've gotten some pretty cool updates of what looked like really iffy, not sure if this is worth our time reveals earlier this year of the Pokemon Gen 4 remakes and Pokemon Legends Arceus, a new spin-off series that is going to be incorporating new elements for the very first time in Pokemon and reinventing some older ones. And I think a lot of people are taken aback about how well this went over, how good everything looks. Obviously, a lot of people are still saying that there's still not enough going on to warrant how expensive these games are. People feel like in comparison to like this entire video is going to be me just bringing up what games are inspiring Gamefreaks, like who are their rivals, who are they taking cues? Like, can Pokemon, the question I asked myself was, can Pokemon be improved upon? I was hoping that Sword and Shield would deliver on that. When it didn't, I was like, maybe it can't be improved on. But I, since then, playing it and getting to this point, slanted back into, yes, Pokemon can be improved upon. There are lots of things that Pokemon has not done that when approached from a different angle, it makes a world of difference, and it's a fresher take than what we've been doing so far. But if you want to ask better questions, you'd say, what is Game Freak taking cues from that we can see so far? Or what games do you think are inspiring Game Freak right now? And here's my laundry list. Monster Hunter, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Digimon Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition, Neo The World Ends With You, Persona 5 Scramble, and Genshin Impact. I think it's safe to say that all of these games in some capacity are having a monumental influence on where Pokemon is going and where it can eventually aspire to, and that's exciting. That's very exciting, and I want to go over what I think from my personal perspective each game and series is, because I know I've said Monster Hunter 3 times, because Monster Hunter, all of these games have some kind of value to add to the conversation of what you could be hoping for or could be or should be expecting in Pokemon going forward, because people have already proven it can be done on the Nintendo Switch. In terms of Monster Hunter has always shown that gathering, like the Generations game getting ported, showed that even before the Switch was on the scene, gathering items and crafting are really good game loops that you want to incorporate into your game. That's why we're seeing it in Pokemon Legends Arceus, why we're going to not just see berries be a part of a Pokemon's diet, but nuts, mushrooms, twigs. Like these are, they're not purposefully, I think they're purposefully not showing us what nodes you can be gathering from, but I imagine like there are different bushes or rocks that you turn over and get different things like earthworms and whatnot, and you would want to collect these things so that you could use them as bait for Pokemon, essentially. So why not do a hunter-gathering kind of method? Like, it works already in Monster Hunter, why not keep going? Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I feel, is mostly on the focus of expanse, of like just wide open area to expand. Like, obviously, like we go further, there's more, even in Monster Hunter, there's large open areas, but in Monster Hunter, there were initially zones which were disconnected, and it's only recently in World where zones are not disconnected, where there's just one giant map that you just continuously explore. There is no loading or reloading, or that was a big thing to a lot of people in World, and honestly I think I prefer this version to within Rise in itself. But Rise is mostly, I think, a tech, like the addition of me putting Monster Hunter Rise on this list as well is because of the technology being incorporated from Monster Hunter Rise into Pokemon Legends Arceus, because there's a similar effect. Like I noticed it in the initial trailer in January, that I was like, oh, it's got the same effect that Monster Hunter Rise does, where I think we had already gotten the demo, and you can see like a 2D image of something that's playing in the background, and I think there's this really, I don't know what it's called, I haven't done the research yet to figure out what that method is, but it's basically you're presenting a lower res image in a high resolution background, and you're using like techniques of lighting and whatnot to create a pseudo effect of like high fidelity retaining itself, even though there might not not anything, there might not be anything there, and the tech is like reading an image of like what you would be seeing from every angle, and it gives you that interpretation and that image. And I think that's what we were seeing on the Chimecho. I forgot what the Pokemon's name. It's the bell Pokemon. It was doing that effect. So I was looking like, oh, okay, so they're definitely utilizing different mechanics, not just from a gameplay perspective, but from a technology perspective of how to give this game the best possible look you possibly can. And it's important to know the reason why this, like, there's so much going into Legends is because Gen 4 remakes have to be a certain standard that everyone's like, yes, I want that, give it to me, from Ilka. And they're trying to make it very obvious that Ilka is the one that's giving it to you, but they're getting direction from the head honcho, from Gamefreaks, forgetting his name right now. We're getting his full take, or sorry, we're getting not his take, we're getting his full interpretation of what they need to do to make this game a one-to-one remake, as well as on time make some very good improvements and quality of life adjustments that will make the game much more streamlined, include platinum content, and I guess because of the Grand Underground and having the wild areas in there, I guess hopefully whatever they're doing or whatever needs to get done so that happens, it happens in more games as well, because I'm looking forward for that to being a thing in future remakes. So if that's always a thing, that's good. But I know that the Grand Underground doesn't exist in Gen 5, so Pokemon 5 steps forward, 20 steps back, unfortunately. So then we go on to Monster Hunter Stories 2, which is a recent release of 2021. A lot of people are playing it. A lot of people are saying this is what Pokemon should be, including myself. Its polish and narrative are fantastic. Like, everything about that game is a complete package. But the thing is that I've even been told, rightly so, that it's not Pokemon in the one-to-one sense, because it's still very much Monster Hunter, but with a new twist of how monsters and humans work together, as opposed to it being a symbiotic relationship of they terrorize people and hunters defend the world and townships from monsters. So that's really good. Like, it's really good. That's a really good mythos to take from Monster Hunter in 3 different ways. And then we get into it's one of its bigger and I guess early rivals, Digimon Cyber Sleuth. I wrote Scope. I'm not sure what I meant by Scope. I think I could be talking, like, I went with Monster Hunter Stories 2, complete polish, like polish from everywhere. Like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting to talk about this forever. I almost forgot. With Monster Hunter Stories 2, voice acting. The voice acting is phenomenal. Sword and Shield's voice acting is non-existent and terrible for being that way. I'm glad that in Pokemon Snap 2, at least the realization of how good adding voices can really add to the overall experience is realized. So I just hope that in the next game, if it's not in this one, I think there was some little voice acting in Legends Arceus. So yeah, I mean, we're already seeing signs of things getting better, because that whole scene with Piers is just so painful to play through. That, see, like, the worst thing about Sword and Shield is that they're literally going to be games that people don't want to play with how good things are getting. Like, I don't feel like, well, some people first got this is, you know what, I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't say that, because every single Pokemon series, every new Red and Blue is somebody's Red and Blue, and they're gonna love it to death for whatever it is, for whatever it was. And it did start what is now coming, so we have to give it credit to what it's due. The Neo The World Ends With You, as a takeaway for Pokemon, is giving us a look of the setting. I know I could skip ahead to what the next game would be, but I want to say that because The World Ends With You The World Ends With You just got an anime that recently just finished earlier this year, and I feel like even just people knowing about the series more often, and it's more in their face now, and there's like a connection to it in Kingdom Hearts, and it's like, oh, who's this guy that looks kind of like Sora? Like, there's going to be more of that, so I feel like the series isn't going away anytime soon. And I think just one of the most amazing things about Neo The World Ends With You, as far as I'm only like 33% into that game, and I'm still, it's flooring me of like how fantastic the game loop is in that, and just how much you can utilize out of a city setting, or a single city setting. And I'm hoping, I haven't seen anything in particular that tells me that Game Freak is taking from any cues on that, but I'm hoping that they choose to do so, because the next game, Persona 5 Scrambled, I haven't actually played anything of Persona 5 Scrambled. I'm just putting it here because Persona 5 Scrambled is this Persona 5 game that got to Switch. I don't know if there's time elements, like how you have to be at certain places at certain times and certain days, like there are in most Persona games, because I haven't even played I haven't started and played 5. I've beaten 3 and 4. Well, I've beaten 1 through 4, and but time became like a big feature in 3, where you were was important, and what you chose to do with your time. Like, I think going into Gen 9, that should be like a really big, I know, trying to force Persona, or aka Shin Megami Megami Tensei persona into Pokemon is kind of retroactive, considering that Shin Megami Tensei existed before Pokemon. But hear me out. I really think that with everything going on with the JRPG scene right now, we're reaching a fever pitch that we have not reached in quite some time. We recently just got more Final Fantasy VII, which, hate it or love it, it's here. It's changing things. It's making people realize, like, if you can expand one of the best games of all time, how can you not make Pokemon better? Those are questions that, like, I didn't even put that here. And Final Fantasy VII Remake is getting an honorable mention about it's not just about what can happen on a Nintendo system or a Nintendo Switch or whatever next iteration comes next. It's about not just keeping up, but setting a standard of, like, what people expect out of the series that has lasted as long as it has. And people have only just been imploring that the series meet its 30-year stride with the same vigor that it's always had. Now that we're getting there again. Things are looking up. And for the last game, we've got Genshin Impact with staying power. Now, I've played Genshin Impact. I enjoy Genshin Impact. I haven't played it since I've done my initial starting and I got my first, I believe, 5 characters. I love that game and that I can go anywhere, do anything. I can get instanced into multiplayer sessions with people, which is always fun. I feel like the online mechanics of what's going on in Monster Hunter Stories 2 and Genshin Impact's dealing with online, like where you have where the world is the hub and then you enter another hub and then you guys can play together with people. As long as they can figure out a way to do that, that's gonna be great. That's gonna work out fine. I think that's exactly what they need. That's all they need to do, is just figure out a way to make the game's meta last in the game as well as out the game. So that's why I'm thinking gathering is an important thing, because if you want to go to a certain place, gather a certain thing during certain times so that a certain Pokemon will appear because you gave it a certain, like, you know what I'm saying? Like for Generation 9, I think if you were to do like the only thing at this point that Pokemon hasn't done is just tried to make an Animal Crossing version of itself, because that's like a number. Like if you wanted to really change things and do something different from everyone else, even including my own idea of Rune Factory mechanics being introduced, just go with Animal Crossing. It's already different enough from everything in the first place. And then, like, instead of villagers being animals, you just make them trainer jobs, and then it's like, there you go. I don't think it's going to be hard for them to create staying power. It's just a matter of what they choose, and it could work in a variety of ways. But I feel like what a lot of people would expect or suspect is that they were going to do expansions where you could just make a large-scale Pokemon game like Final Fantasy 11, and then throughout the years you get to 14 online, and those worlds aren't necessarily connected, but like you can connect them if you'd like to. But all of those expansions from Final Fantasy 11 that went into Final Fantasy 14, that went on into whatever we're at in Final Fantasy 14 online's expansion passes and whatnot, like its expanded universe, like these are things that you could do for a Generation 9 game or just a generational game, so that as like, say for example, you were to do Gen 9 and then we did the Gen 5 remakes, and my idea before of putting Black and White 1 and 2 together doesn't really gel with everything for Ilka. So instead they do Black and White remakes, and then they put Black and White 2's story or events like a year after, like, or before whatever you do in like Kalos in Pokemon Generation 9's game. Obviously I guess we can't do that in the sense of Pokemon always having to be 2 versions, so they're always going to be trying to limit how much people can do on their own. So there wouldn't be like, but I would prefer if we just went with one copy that was like $80, and where you are in the world determines which mons you get, as opposed to however, like whatever spawnings you want to do, whatever numbers you want to crunch, whatever makes it easier to pull from certain mons, like just put them online. Like, I mean, look at Pokemon Go in terms of its information. You're telling me you couldn't just feed some of that information from a server? I don't know, but I'm still looking forward to whatever it is Gamefreaks decides to do. Not sure. With just having said everything, what matters most to Pokemon is that it keeps doing what it's currently doing, which is trying to reinvent itself in the best ways of taking the best things about it and improving upon the situation, as opposed to taking away from itself. Because subtracting good things from a good thing is obviously a good thing when we're talking about scale, but I'm hoping that with the current trend of giving Ilka more work, maybe Ilka could even front end a mainline game someday, like they do Generation 4, 5, 6, but then they do Gen what? I don't know, 11, 12, so that Game Freak can focus on making an RC Legends game that has 2 versions, and then that becomes like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we've always been saying that people should have other people should be dealing with Pokemon so as to free up space and time for the main Pokemon teams, and Team B was the teams that were dealing with the remakes before, and Team A was the one that was making new generations before, but now an entire new studio has been is working on generation remakes, which frees up both A and B teams, which means A team is probably going to start making Legends, while B team is going to be focusing on mainline, which is not a bad thing, because considering like this is not the only like Pokemon spin-off series that we're getting. Like we still have Mystery Dungeon, like they're remaking Mystery Dungeon games. They're gonna have to make more of the Mystery Dungeon games. What about Pokemon Ranger? They could bring that back at any time, and it's like, who's gonna be doing that? Who's front-ending that studio? It's crazy to think about. It's crazy to think how bad things were like a year or so ago for Pokemon, or how bad things were looking at or look how bland things seemed, and now we're just like, and they're like, wow, you know what, guys, things actually might be okay, you know? But anyway, nothing is set in stone. These are just my takes and opinions of what I can garner from current information and what Game Freak is giving us. Complete speculation, but there's nothing wrong ever with thinking. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts below about what you want in Pokemon Gen, or Pokemon's future. Tell me about what you are thinking about the most, and like, give me your thoughts. Give us some feedback. It's always good to share. It's always good to ruminate. I'm always looking forward to having a conversation with people about where their favorite things going on, especially in gaming. As always, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.